Deborah with Preservation Publications and Preservation 2012 on YouTube. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about emergency food rationing. I've been watching what's going on over in Japan and taking note of the fact that they're running out of water, they're running out of food, they're running out of fuel, which is typical of what happens in a disaster. If we all keep our eyes on what's going on over there, we'll have a good idea of what could happen here in this country and has happened here in this country during times of great natural disaster, such as with Katrina. If you are confronted with a natural disaster and don't have access to food storage or a garden, there's a couple of things you need to do so that you can survive. The first thing that you need to do is figure out a rationing schedule of food. Now, how this is done is that you pull every single food that you have out in your refrigerator, in your cabinets, in your freezer, in your pantry. Pull every single food that you have available out and put it on the floor or on the counter. Then you determine how many months that food has to last you. Let's hope that this doesn't happen at the end of our growing season and we have to wait 6 months before we can provide food for ourselves. But let's take that as the worst case scenario, that it's going to take 6 months before you can produce a garden that will provide you with food. So once you've taken all your available food out, you immediately dehydrate those foods that you can. So vegetables that are frozen or fresh, or fruits that are frozen or fresh, you immediately set them to dehydrate. If you don't have a dehydrator, cut them up, put them on screens that are food friendly and set them out in the sun. By the same token, any meats that you have that are lean, you slice them, marinate them, and dry them as well. What you should have left will be your leafy vegetables, your fatty meats, and your dairy products, all of which should be consumed first. Since I'm using a 6-month example, you'll need to portion out your food into 6 different allotments. And this is very important. Do not put all of your favorite foods in the first month. Divide them up over time. So for example, if you have 6 meals of pasta that your family likes, put 1 in each month. So you'll have something you like at the first month and something you like at the last month. By the same token, the foods that you don't like are the foods that have been sitting on your shelf for months and months because nobody likes them. You portion them out equally as well, so that at the end of this period of time, you're not stuck eating the food that you hate when things get really, really tough. The next thing you need to do is pull out your heirloom seeds, your organic potatoes and garlic, and plan your garden. If you can't plant outside, if you're out of season, then plant what you can indoors that are fast producers and don't need to be pollinated by insect. For example, as much as I don't like radishes, and I don't propose anybody grow radishes, they are fast producers. You can get them in about 25 to 30 days depending upon the variety. If you're close to season, start your plants indoors and prepare them for transplanting when your season arrives. Remember to sow new seed every 5 to 7 days so that you have a continuous supply of food coming in. And make sure if you are going to transplant and they do need to be pollinated, that you hand pollinate the plants that will need it. When I talk to you about pulling out all of your food and putting it on the table, I am including spices and herbs. From this point on, you've got to consider them as medicinal in nature and not for flavoring food. Hopefully you've done some research and looked into what herbs can be used medicinally, so you're not walking into this blind. Once you've got your garden started inside or outside, or both, you need to take a look at what's available in your first month's ration. Calculate in the foods that you're growing conservatively. Remember, not every seed produces a plant, and not every plant will produce food. Once you understand where your restrictions and limitations will be each month, it's time to go out into the neighborhood. Now, two foods that I think that will be available to all of us, or most of us, will be pine nuts and acorns. Now, because both these foods are very high in oil content, they're very good for your diet. But by the same token, you can only process a limited amount at a time because they will spoil. If you go to my blog, I will give you descriptions as to how to process these foods to include them in your diet. Do not eat anything that you do not know is absolutely 100% safe to eat and is edible, and never eat any foods that are grown in the wild that have been sprayed chemically. Seriously take a look at this plan, and if you don't want to do the exercise right away, think about what you would need to do to survive for 6 months. You might end up looking at the food that you have available to you just a little bit differently. Until next time, for our families, our neighbors, our friends, and our communities, preservation